are listening to
Beach in the Silence.
This is a dagger, let's say. This is air, the intellect, or reason, the conceptual mind. The dagger and the sword are both weapons of air. Crowley says that the dagger is, in a sense, a refined form of the sword. You know, good for you if you can handle just a dagger. Most of us need a sword. What does Liber say about the mind? Well, it says lots of things, actually. The first one is, let thy mental equilibrium be above disturbance by material events. Yeah, I personally interpret this as the power of indifference or mindfulness. We need to train our minds to react elastically to all events, not letting any event, bad or good, knock us off our balance or center. You know, what do I mean by bad events? Sickness, poverty, insult. To be above the disturbance by material events includes flattery and insult. It includes poverty and wealth. It is easier to know that you should be above a bad situation. You know, he insulted me. Whatever, I'm gonna handle it. It's okay. He was having a bad day. It's the good side that is subtler in a lot of ways. They praise me for the job I did. I'm so good. I'm so hardworking. I'm finally validated, and I feel good about myself because someone else outside of me told me this. The magician is at the center, the place of balance, the place of equilibrium, and anything, good or bad, should be able to be reacted to. I don't want to say endured. Reacted to elastically, so that it does not move us from our center. Liber says, be sure that thy soul is firm and steadfast, for it is by flattering thy weaknesses that the weak ones will gain power over thee. And this is one of the fundamental ideas of a magician. As some people say, the magician is the creative causal principle in her own universe. Which is to say, a magician acts. A magician does not react to things. The magician, a true magician, is the source of her own power. The magician does not give power to other people or to circumstances to determine her state of being. If we let people get a reaction out of us when they insult us, we give them power. We react. If we let people get a reaction out of us when they praise us, we give them power. We react. If we let a circumstance get a reaction out of us when the world throws us bullshit, we give away our power. And if we have a reaction when the world throws us good things, we give away our power. Our mental equilibrium should be above the disturbance of material events. This is a sense of power and of peacefulness. But this power and this peace derive from ourselves, not the outside. If I harped on that point enough. Liber also says very, very, succinctly, think rationally. If this weapon is a dagger and we sharpen the dagger, and this weapon represents our mind, to sharpen the dagger is to sharpen the mind. Crowley in Magic Without Tears says, all magicians ought to be grounded solidly in formal logic. Why the fuck would he ever say that? Well, logic is the rules, so to speak, of the intellect, and applicable only to the intellect, the mind, the dagger. He also says in Magic Without Tears that one should be grounded in the classics, in mathematics, and in science. Why would you do that? Well, the classics are what ground you in the major influences of human thought, the breadth of knowledge of humanity. Mathematics are the manipulation of the mind, the rules of logic, these rules that have formulas and how to work with these formulas, and if you don't abide by the formula, you will get the wrong answer. That's how intellect works. And science. I mean, aside from the fact that it's a good guard against superstition, which is still alive and well in our age, the scientific method is the basis of magic. It is, by which I mean experimentation. If you ask, is this right or is that right, the answer is always do them both and see which one works. That's empiricism. There is a lovely apocryphal story where people were debating over the number of teeth in a horse's mouth, saying, "Oh, like this authority says that," and I'm like, "I heard that." And then Francis Bacon said, "Why don't we look into the horse's mouth and count the teeth?" That is science at its basis. It is looking, making an observation. So logic, classics, mathematics, science, these are the realms of the dagger. They're the subjects, I guess, that sharpen your dagger, they sharpen your mind. I would say that if it's the virtue of the body to be healthy, it is the virtue of the mind to be clear and concise. Being unable to think clearly and concisely is on the plane of the intellect of the dagger. The same thing as being unable to coordinate your muscles of your body on the plane of the disc. It's pretty obvious when someone can't coordinate their body. We somehow allow and do not think it on when someone is not clear and concise with their intellect. It's unfortunate. You know, Libre is actually full of things about the dagger, and I recommend you read it. I'm going to mention this particular line, which I think is incredibly important. It says, "Let thy victories bring thee not vanity, for with increase of knowledge should come increase of wisdom. He who knoweth little thinketh he knoweth much, but he who knoweth much has learned his own ignorance. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope of a fool than of him." The important point I want to harp on, at least, is that there's a danger in becoming vain, of becoming prideful. Is that a word? Mm-hmm. Prideful? It sounded weird. If you gain a lot of knowledge without a proportionate increase in wisdom. Yeah, we even have a term, a derogatory term, a know-it-all. Someone who knows all this stuff, but is still a huge dick.
And hence why God is the philosopher.
Exactly. I mean, knowledge is not the crown of ourself. It is better to have wisdom. And that old cliche thing from the Tao Te Ching that those who don't know speak and those who know do not speak. This is the dagger, you know. If you're gonna sharpen it, are you gonna go and like wave it around like, look how fucking big my dagger is? It's super shiny. It's got this gold hilt. It's got this.
It's short.
I don't know, weird rubber thing. It's short because it's so awesome and efficient and better than yours. That's basically a know-it-all. And so what does Libre say? It says, "Humble thyself before thy capital S self." And we all know this. The more you learn you do not know. It's pretty absurd how much knowledge there is in the world, and you cannot possibly have it all. There was actually someone, I forget, like centuries ago, I can't remember exactly when, who made it their task to learn everything, to know everything, some prince, and he gave up. And that was before the internet. So, equilibrate. The element of air can be unbalanced or balanced. I'm spending a little more time on air because human beings are very airy. The cherub, the symbol of the element of air, is a man, person. We are the beings that have developed intellect far beyond other animals. So unbalanced, what does Libre say about air being in a state of imbalance? It says frivolity and caprice. Frivolity basically means, you've heard the term frivolous. Pay attention to frivolous things. It's paying attention to things of little value. So the mind must know what is valuable and what is not. Oscar Wilde has this beautiful quote where he says, "Nowadays, everyone knows the price of everything and the value of nothing." That is him bemoaning frivolity in the world. So what are frivolous pursuits, frivolous goals, frivolous time spent, frivolous friends? What do you do that is frivolous? There must be at least one thing.
Oh no.
Watch Game of Thrones.
Mad Men.
The idea of
Red Wedding reaction videos.
Yeah. How much time do you spend on YouTube? How much? So the question, I guess, is what can you do, or what do you do to accomplish the great work? In Thelemic terms, what can you be doing to know and do your true will? There's this text called De Lege Libellum. It's Liber 150. And Crowley says something very important. He says lots of important things in there, but I am going to focus on this. He says, "Search yourselves cunningly, I pray you, analyzing your inmost thoughts, and first you shall discard all those gross, obvious hindrances to your will. Idleness, foolish friendships, waste employments or enjoyments. I will not enumerate the conspirators against the welfare of your estate. Next, find the minimum of daily time, which is in good sooth necessary to your natural life. The rest you shall devote to the true means of your attainment. And even these necessary hours you shall consecrate to the great work, saying consciously always while at these tasks that you perform them only in order to preserve your body and mind in health for the right application to that sublime and single object. It shall not be very long before you come to understand that such a life is true liberty." So basically, Crowley nailed that one. That is no small task, obviously, but frivolity is quite rampant. I am not exempt.
Neither was he.
Neither was he. Of course not. Right. So frivolity and caprice are the two things that Liber Libre says are the dagger, the air being unbalanced. What is caprice? It is basically
Not short pants.
not short pants.
Sorry, couldn't help it.
Caprice are not short pants, and also not making up your mind. Or caprice is impulsively changing your mind. It's kind of the stereotype of Gemini. They're always all over the place and never deciding on anything and always wanting to do one thing but doing another, and then, vacillating. That's a good word. Vacillation, yes. So what is the opposite of caprice? It is decisiveness. It is steadiness of mind. Liber Libre talks about this idea of decisiveness or steadiness of mind in terms of concentration. It says, to obtain magical power, learn to control thought. Admit only those ideas that are in harmony with the end desired, and not every stray and contradictory idea that presents itself. Fixed thought is a means to an end. Therefore, pay attention to the power of silent thought and meditation. The material acts as but the outward expression of thy thought, and therefore hath it been said that the thought of foolishness is sin. Thought is the commencement of action, and if a chance thought can produce much effect, what cannot fixed thought do? The control of thought through various techniques of concentration and meditation and magic is a huge part of the general work of a magician. Consider, how many thoughts do you have during the day? There's actually a study done at Stanford that says, on average, people have between 90,000 and 150,000 thoughts in a day. How many of those are stray and contradictory?
Students or is
It was all grad students, all on math.
I was going to say, I actually find that number shockingly low.
I don't know if you would distinguish between one thought and another thought either. like
I'm
itemize them.
not here to report on their methodology. This is for its emotional impact. That's a lot of thoughts. And so suppose we have 90,000 thoughts. How many of those thoughts are dedicated to what we are doing at that moment? How many are
1%.
Exactly.
What was I doing?
How many are indecisive? How many are all indecision itself? How many are frivolity?
About your stomach or your genitals.
Yes, how many are not based on your stomach or genitals? How many are about the great work in your day? Like 4 out of 90,000. How many are dedicated towards finding your true will? How many towards accomplishing it? And how many are reactive to your environment? The bulk. How many are active and creative?
10%.
Okay. Let's not be too self-pitying here. But we get the point. So we have frivolity and caprice. I would add the major imbalance of the mind is one-sidedness. It's lopsidedness in our thinking. It's what that means. Not balanced. The mind works in dualities. Something is X or it is not X. Something is black or white. It is true or false. It is up or down. It is short or fat. It is... it is short or tall. It is fat or skinny. Yes, my mind. I've transcended duality, so... The magician's mental equilibrium, I think, ideally is above the disturbance of any one-sided thought, one-sided belief. In the Heart of the Master, Crowley says, balance each thought against its exact opposite, for the marriage of these is the annihilation of illusion. That's pretty much the idea. In Book 4, Part 2, this is kind of a long quote, but this is a better explanation of what I just said. He says, of the methods of destroying various deep-rooted ideas, there are many. The best is perhaps the method of equilibrium. That word just keeps coming. Get the mind into the habit of calling up the opposite to every thought that may arise. In conversation, always disagree. See the other man's arguments, but however much your judgment approves them, find the answer. Let this be done dispassionately. The more convinced you are that a certain point of view is right, the more determined you should be to find proofs it is wrong. If you have done this thoroughly, these points of view will cease to trouble you. You can then assert your own point of view with the calm of a master, which is more convincing than the enthusiasm of a learner. You will cease to be interested in controversies, politics, ethics, religion. Will seem so many toys, and your magical will be free from these inhibitions.
And people will call you argumentative.
Yes. And then you will tell them the opposite of that. So you have to consider the truth and falsity of every proposition and be able to see the truth and falsity of both sides. The magician stands in the center of the temple in the place of equilibrium. Consider, for example, these ideas about Thelema itself as a philosophy. Thelema encourages indulgence. Thelema encourages asceticism. Thelema is a doctrine of love. Thelema is a doctrine of war. Thelema is democratic. Thelema is aristocratic. Thelema acknowledges your independence from others. Thelema acknowledges your interdependence with others. I could go on, but these are just a few examples all within the sphere of the philosophy of Thelema. And, as Crowley wisely said, the more convinced you are of a certain point of view is right, the more determined you should be to find proofs it is wrong. Phyllis Seckler, Sora Moral, she once said that if you are convinced the Book of the Law says something, you just have not found the part in the Book of the Law that says the exact opposite yet. And that idea is true of all thought. What's it mean to be balanced in air? It means to be, according to Libre, prompt and active. Again, I'm spending a little more time on air because we are all big-brained and such. So what is prompt? It means you are quick to act. The mind should be sharp and quick. The magician responds elastically to all situations. I like to think of the mind of a magician like a kung fu master. Walking peacefully collected, and then some ninja, pops out and attacks them, and they quickly defend themselves, take out that ninja, and then just keep walking, reacting elastically to whatever comes, but not being moved from your place.
O-sensei in the Aikido tradition would say, the smile never leaves your face.
Exactly. Prompt, active. What is active? It is not slothful. It is abiding by what the Book of Law says, strive ever to more. An active mind is not an inactive mind, and is not an overactive mind. We waver between these two extremes. I think we all know that an active mind is a balanced and helpful mind. And I would add seeing the balance of viewpoints, the truth and falsity of thesis and antithesis. There's something I want to say about the idea of the place of reason, or the place of the conceptual mind in the New Aeon. The Book of Law says reason is a lie. All its words are skew eyes. In short, the doctrine of reason or intellect in the New Aeon is that it should be honed, it should become the ruler of intellect, but always stay in its own realm. Most people are dominated by their minds. The dagger takes the place of spirit, so to speak. It wants to be king, but it is a minister. Crowley says in a commentary to the Book of the Law, we must not suppose for an instant that the Book of the Law is opposed to reason. On the contrary, its own claim to authority rests upon reason and nothing else. It makes reason the autocrat of the mind. But that very fact emphasizes that the mind should attend to its own business. It should not transgress its limits. It should be a perfect machine, an apparatus for representing the universe accurately and impartially to its master. The self, its will, its apprehension should be utterly beyond it. It's ridiculous to ask why a dog barks. One must fulfill one's nature. One must do one's will. To question this is to destroy confidence, and so create inhibition. We are not to calculate, not to argue, not to criticize. These things lead to division of will. They are shackles to our going. They hamstring our Pegasus. We are to rise up, to go, to love. We are to be awake, alert. Awake, alert, prompt, active. Same deal. Yes, strong, well-balanced mind. A very sharp dagger, but a dagger that does not rule all the other weapons. It is in its own sphere, its own plane. Crowley also says, this is the virtue of the mind, to be the wazir of the will, a true counselor through its intelligence of the universe. But, O my son, do thou lay this word beneath thine heart, that the mind hath no will, nor right thereto, so the usurpation bringeth forth a fatal conflict in thyself. For the mind is sensitive, unstable as air, and may be led foolishly in leash by a stronger mind that worketh as a cunning tool of a will. Therefore, safety and defense is to hold thy mind to its right function, a faithful minister to thine own true will. So make sure your dagger is sharp, that it's one-pointed, that it can cut through the complexities and lopsidedness of life, but that it does not usurp the place of will. When you say to yourself, I should be doing this, I should not be doing that, that is your mind working. It may very well be helpful to think of that, but that is not your will. That is the conceptual mind at work. And if you let that dominate your behavior, your way of the world, you are basically letting the counselor become the king. So what have I said about the air or dagger? Indifference, mindfulness. Let the mind be above disturbance from material events. of other people, of circumstance, for good and for ill. Don't give away your power by reacting. Stay firm in balance. Think rationally. Develop the rational powers of the intellect. Through logic, what are the other ones? Classics, mathematics, and science. Be humble. Don't be a know-it-all. Increase in knowledge to bring wisdom and humility. Those who have learned their own ignorance. Beware of imbalance, frivolity, triviality, and caprice, which are not shorthands, and truth, seeing the truth and falsity of both sides of any issue. Be prompt and active, and finally let the will dictate action, not the mind. Let the mind help the will. That itself could be an entire class, but it is one weapon.